Hello. My shortcut to start the recording moves away from the title screen here. I've been kind of obsessed with this game, and I realized that the end of the year is approaching, and I got distracted with like 3 or 4 different games, including this. So I might as well make some kind of video before the end of the end of the year. Damn it. And since at this moment midnight hasn't arrived yet, Merry Christmas, everybody. Maybe it'll go up the next day, but I feel like saying that anyway. This game is absolutely phenomenal. It's maybe one of the best twin-stick shoot-'em-ups ever made, and I'm very heavily fixating on it. And if I sound a little weird, although apparently it's unnoticeable, that's because I drank a bunch of moonshine immediately after our Christmas party with the family. So if that's what it takes for me to get motivated enough to record, then so be it. Cheers, everybody. I kind of just want to showcase the game. This isn't the start of a playthrough or anything, although I kind of want to do one. I just don't feel that I'm good enough already. To those who know, here's my medal progress so far, although I kind of went backwards. Yep. I'm not going to scroll through all of them. Whoever knows the game will see where I'm at. And I'm just going to run through all the modes and explain the basics of this game, pretty much. Starting with campaign. And I'm going to select the lowest difficulty, which is experience, yeah. The default ship with the default look, I suppose. Oh wait, that's the default color. Yep. And the defaults of these. Those are decks. There's a light deck building element to this game. I'll show you how that works. I'm just gonna... Actually, better yet, I gotta start with the tutorial. These are the basics if you want to pause and read this stuff. I'll let the videos loop once each. That'll be enough for you to get an idea if you'd rather see things on your own pace rather than listen to me yap about it. Yeah, that's a pretty cool system, but I will elaborate later during gameplay. Now, before I actually start a run, I just remembered another thing. This is very scatterbrained and slightly inebriated, so I have an excuse if I'm even more all over the place than usual. If we look at the #1 spot, this guy right here, Zarok, spelled with an X or a Z, depending on the platform. I don't know what that is in the square brackets. Is Zarok part of some kind of shmup guild or something? Is that what that is? A guild tag? Yeah, he's #1 on this game, and he's a really damn good shmup player. I really look up to the guy. He's played all sorts of cool games that I've never heard of before. I also played Kill Knight because of him. That's another twin-stick shmup, and a pretty cool one at that. Might do a video on that in the future. But yeah, thank you, Zarok, for playing this game. There's really not enough coverage of Sektori relative to how excellently designed the game is. So, a run on the lowest difficulty. I'm gonna end it prematurely. I don't think a full run is worth it, but yeah, you move with the left stick, aim with the right stick. I've set it up so I have to press a button to shoot. I prefer that. Actually, it might be Zarok's fault that exists as an option in the controls, so that's nice. So every enemy you shoot drops these bits of glimmer. You could have read that in the tutorial, but I'll say it anyway. And collecting enough glimmer will fill up a bar and spawn these blue tokens. And I picked up a token, and now the speed upgrade is selected, and if I press a button, I choose that upgrade, and now I move faster. There are 5 levels of speed. The power-up system is basically like Gradius. Picking up more tokens will move up the list, and then pressing a button will consume the tokens to give you the corresponding upgrade. So, strike. Now my dash attack, which is fully invincible. It's on a cooldown, it causes an explosion at the end of it. It has a shorter cooldown and a larger explosion. That's what that level... That's what that upgrade does for the strike. This wave of enemies, if you kill them, you get an extra pickup. And a really important pickup at that. Let's see if I can... Oh, almost missed it. So, at this time, I will say, I will make a bold statement. This is not a roguelike. If you're expecting anything like The Binding of Isaac, or Slay the Spire, or Balatro, or anything like that, get out of here. This is an arcade shoot-'em-up. You will be sorely disappointed if those are your expectations. I've seen negative Steam reviews that are like, oh, this is nothing like The Binding of Isaac. And I say to that, yeah, that's why I love this game. So this system is really complicated, and I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about it, so brace yourselves. The selection pool, you can see it says there in gold letters, is basically like a deck. And you start with 8... Well, I guess deck is the wrong word, because these are called decks. The selection pool, every time you get an evolution token, those are those yellow pickups, you get to draft one of 3 options, which, here's 3, pick one. It's just like a roguelike, right? If that's what it takes for a game to be a roguelike, the term roguelike is meaningless. But anyway, at the start, when you first get a selection, you have 8 of these decks, and each deck contains 3 cards. You can see adds the following cards to the selection pool. If you choose a deck, it will open it, it'll fill in the slot it occupied with one of the 3 cards at random, and the other 2 cards go into the selection pool, which means that on future evolution tokens, one of those 2 cards could be drawn as one of your 3 options. Selection ends when you pick a card. So drone Y, that's a card. If I pick it, I'll get a missile drone and I'll continue playing. If you pick a deck, it just opens the deck and adds the cards to the pool. So I guess I'll open all of these just to showcase. Now, other than picking a card, you can also discard a card, which removes it from the run. You'll never see that card again. It helps thin out the selection pool. And then I could, you can discard up to 3 times per selection. As you can see now, I'm left with 2 choices. If I were to discard both of these, the selection ends without me gaining anything. But next time, I will have narrowed down my options of what I'll get to draft. For now, I'll pick the drone Y. You can see the drone trails behind me and it shoots homing projectiles. I really like this card drafting system. There's a little bit more to it than this. I'll explain later if I get more options. But it's really unlike anything I've ever played. It's, yeah, I can see why people would think, oh, just like a roguelike, but in reality, it's much more consistent than that, while still having a degree of randomness to it. And now that I picked a missile, I also shoot 2 homing projectiles per shot on top of my my blaster. This yellow crystal, there are a bunch of them tethered together. I destroyed 2 more, and if you destroy them in the right order, you get another evolution token, so you can do this again. Okay, nothing new for now. I think I'll get Strike Blast. It's the most relevant thing right now. The battlefield, as you can see, changes over time, and whenever you see an area highlighted in red, you want to be careful, because if you get caught in the transformation of the arena, like right here, it'll instantly kill you. Right now I have 3 shields, which means I have 3 extra lives. If I get hit, I'll just lose a shield. But if you get caught in the transformation, it bypasses your shields and it's an instant game over. I think I'll go for a blaster level here and then maybe I'll max out speed. This is the lowest difficulty, so I don't really have to pay attention. I can just yap. If you've ever seen or played Geometry Wars, a lot of the enemy design will be very familiar. Well, with the snakes, the idlers, the enemies that dodge you. But this is definitely not like Geometry Wars. This game has boss fights, and they're really cool. This is the Omen core, as that text said there. Bosses generally have these blue weak points. You need to, or I guess they're cyan, but hey, who's gonna correct me on that? You have to destroy all the weak points to advance to the next phase. And the bosses are really cool because they're in a random order. There's 5 of them. I could have fought any of the other 4 bosses here instead of the Omen core. And they also have randomized, semi-randomized phases. For instance, the Omen core, each of its phases has different rotation, but the arrangements of guns are static. So for instance, these 6 standard projectile blasters could be with a different movement pattern, which will actually change the pattern of the bullets. It's really cool. And one thing about this game, it's surprisingly deep. If you're familiar with Geometry Wars, you might have other ideas. Oh, something else to talk about. You might be thinking of how Geometry Wars' scoring and mechanics work. This game has many more layers, and I might get into the intricacies of it during a playthrough, because the tutorial doesn't really explain the finer points of how the game works. You're supposed to figure it out yourself. So, this is a rare card. Each card can be a rare version. I think you only get 1 rare card per draft randomly. So because this is rare, these 2 can't be rare. And rare cards are just strictly better than the common white versions of cards. But they come with a negative effect. In this case, weapon power is reduced until 75 enemies are destroyed. The only conditions for removing curses like this are killing a certain number of enemies or waiting a certain amount of time. Like, I think on this difficulty it would take 15 seconds for a curse to be removed. And it's kind of a cool idea, and I wish more roguelikes would do this, to where rarer, more powerful items and effects would have a downside to them necessarily. So it's not like gambling where you're just strictly better off. It's not necessarily better. Brutal Orchestra was really good about this, by the way. Maybe I'll play that game someday as well. But yeah, raise blaster upgrade level cap by 1. That's the default effect of this card. But get a free blaster level, that's the added effect if this card is rare. And I'll pick it now. You can see on the right side of the screen the red 75 is an indicator for the curse. The red ring around my ship also signifies that. But yeah. Oh, I didn't wait, I did mention the upgrade stack, that's right, okay. I'm definitely a little inebriated. I can't remember what I've said. Lost the shield there. And might as well demonstrate that the red zone does kill you. I just got a game over with 1 shield remaining. So yeah, that's the main campaign. I showed you 1 boss and the start of the next world. That's what they were called, worlds. Experience consists of 5 worlds. At the end of each world is a boss. If you beat all 5 bosses, you win. Another cool thing about the bosses, maybe I'll explain later, but other than having randomized variants so that you can't just memorize all the bosses, and fighting the bosses in a random order, there's also the boss generation system, which is like a separate difficulty scaling for the bosses themselves. So the Omen core there was generation 1. That's the easiest version of that boss. Higher generations have more phases, more weapons, and eventually some special things that are really impressive. Now, other than that, I want to do 1 reasonable showcase of each of the 6 side challenge modes. Campaign is the main mode. It has 3 difficulties, 3 playable ships, and a heck of a lot of depth. I have still not beaten the highest difficulty of campaign, mostly due to lack of trying. I'm busy cleaning up achievements on the 2 lower difficulties. If you don't like the randomization of campaign, or at least the card drafting system and the random bosses, there is Classic Mode, which is a lot like Geometry Wars, I would say. Classic Mode, your level area is static. Collect the special token to upgrade your ship and recharge your 1 shield. Increase your multiplier by leaving the token uncollected. And each optional challenge mode has its own ranking system, you see, based on score thresholds that the game actually shows you there. And they have separate leaderboards also. I spent a lot of time with one of the optional modes. But yeah, the gist of Classic is no bosses, no evolution cards, just tokens that power up your weapons, the enemies, and a static arena. You still collect Glimmer, but in this case, I think it spawns score tokens after you collect enough, because there's no upgrade stack in the upper corner. I also didn't mention, but the upgrade stack does have shields, but you can only gain 5 shields from the upgrade stack, so there's a fairly limited number of lives. Yeah, this just keeps ramping up, and eventually we're going to see the special token. There it is. I really like these lines that point towards uncollected pickups. This green star is in each of the optional challenge modes, and maybe calling them optional doesn't really make sense. They're alternate play modes, right? In each of the modes, the green star does something different. In this case, it powers up your weapon and refreshes your shield if you don't have one already. So now my blaster fires 2 projectiles, and I'm also shooting homing missiles. You can see the multiplier in the bottom right corner of the screen. If I wait for this token to disappear, it'll increase the multiplier, but I'll miss out on a weapon upgrade. So, risk reward. Oh yeah, it also spawns 3 score tokens when you let the green star disappear. This thing is a mini-boss. I think this one steals your Glimmer, so I kind of want to get rid of it as soon as I can. There we go. And at this point, skipping another green token is really playing with fire, but hey, I don't want to be that careful. I have 5 more modes to showcase after all. Oh, accidentally grabbed a power-up token there. Yeah, each of these enemies starts to become very distinct after you play the game for long enough. Like, these blue enemies just move straight towards you. The pink enemies sort of randomly move around, but they're fairly static. These larger purple cubes fire revenge bullets when you destroy them. The snakes are very beefy, because you have to destroy each segment of their body before they die. They also take up a lot of space, but they're very vulnerable to area of effect attacks, which whenever you pick up a token, it triggers a large circular AoE, which is very nice for cleaning up enemies. Almost every facet of this game has some small nuance to it, which I really appreciate. It's a real gamer's game, if I may say so myself. If I do say so myself, I think that's the expression I was looking for. Okay, I'll grab the green token now, and my shield's back, but you can't have multiple shields in this mode. Most of the challenge modes are very tightly balanced to where they're always going to be hard no matter how you play them, whereas campaign mode, if you have a good strategy with the decks and you're smart with your upgrade order, you can make, I think, the first 2 difficulties much easier than they otherwise would be. And I'm sure you can make the highest difficulty, the hard mode, per se, easier as well, but not by a whole lot. That mode is really intense from what I've seen. Okay, I'm actually doing a bit too well here. I guess I'll keep going. Is there anything else I want to say when it comes to the basics of the game? It's worth noting, the tutorial tells you this. Your strike has a fairly lengthy cooldown. You can see the lines around my ship right now. Now the cooldown is up. But if you strike through a pickup like this green star, your strike cooldown is instantly refreshed, and you can strike again. There's even a scoring mechanic associated with that, the strike combo. You can see it below my score in the upper right corner. And on top of that, you have it's not part of this mode's scoring, but there's also a chaining mechanic with enemy kills. There's even more nuances to the score tokens. You want to pick them up at a specific point to maximize their score value, but I'm not going to get carried away with all the minutia. Okay, I'm going to die on purpose here. I was playing way worse than this before I got tipsy. What was my high score again? Okay, I didn't beat it. I was like less than half my high score. So that's classic mode. And then there's surge mode. All of these are locked at first, by the way. You have to beat you have to play a little bit of experience mode in the campaign, which is also the only available default difficulty. And then you get classic, and then if you play enough classic, you get surge, and so on until you've unlocked all these modes. So surge. In surge mode, your ship has two forms, weak and strong. Collect tokens to enter super state and clear space for yourself to survive until your next token is within reach. Chain your strikes and go for maximum score. It's a little like classic, but it's a bit different. You can see you start at a higher power level with 4 homing shots and 2 blaster shots. Again, waves of enemies are spawning in. But your ship doesn't get any stronger than this. Except temporarily when you grab one of these. And now I'm at full power for just a few seconds, and then I'm back to this power level. Why is there a Sektori pad in here? That's not supposed to happen, is it? That's a mechanic from campaign mode. That's a little strange. Yeah, the temporary burst of power really helps you kill mini-bosses, which is why this mode throws a lot of mini-bosses at you. Well, I guess that balances out my performance in classic mode. Dismal. But yeah, that is basically the gist of surge mode. Each of these alternate game modes has its own set of achievements, which are really fun to go for. You also have global leaderboards, the ranks. There's a whole lot to sink your teeth into in this game, which is one of the things I really love about it. Gates. This is a mode that I have spent a lot of time on. Look at that, number 4 on the leaderboard. In Gates mode, your only weapon is your speed. Fly through blue laser gates to create space, clearing explosions, and manage the chaos. Fly through the blue laser gates to create space, clearing explosions. Okay, I didn't comprehend what I was reading for a second there, excuse me. Weapons and strike are disabled. I believe this is a mode from Geometry Wars. I think it was called Pacifist mode there. It's the same exact concept where you can't attack enemies directly. If you pass through 80 gates, you will complete the sequence beating this mode. And then you can also optimize your score within the 80 gates of the mode. I always start by letting a bunch of enemies and gates pile up. There's an achievement for that, but also I think it's probably a good tactic overall, because the enemy chaining mechanic applies to this mode. The gates themselves can't hurt you even if you run into the 2 enemies that generate them. You can even stretch them out to shove yourself through the laser. But yeah, those are the explosions that clear away the enemies. And now you can see the chain under my score counter. Here the green star creates this laser light show and spawns 3 score tokens, which is very nice. Yeah, all you can do is move, so you need to navigate this maze of madness and kill all the enemies. Oh, I just dropped my chain. It keeps getting more and more intense. More enemies begin to spawn in, different types of enemies that are much more dangerous. And yeah, maybe I'll get the world record for this mode someday, because it's actually a lot of fun. There's a lot of little things to optimize. For example, there's still glimmer to collect here. And collecting enough glimmer will spawn more score tokens. Another nasty thing about this mode, well, probably the nastiest thing, is you only get one shield. And if you lose it, there's no way to recover it, so I've experienced some heavy restart syndrome in here. I'm sort of playing haphazardly. Yeah, I think you get the gist. I haven't seen any mini-bosses in this mode, but that would be ridiculous. I don't know how many gates it would take to kill one mini-boss. But yeah, that's Gates mode. Then there's Crash. In Crash mode, you need to rely on your triple strikes to clear the way. Other weapons are disabled. Strike through score tokens for free strike reloads. A new score token is always spawned when none remain. I believe Super Stardust had a mode like this where you can only use your dash to attack enemies. I have no weapons, no nothing. Just this. And your triple, well, I call it a dash, but it's called strike in this game. Well, that was terrible. I need to at least showcase the strike reload here. In this mode, your strike fires projectiles. You can see them in an expanding circle like that. And if you don't dash quickly enough after the first one, I keep saying dash instead of strike, excuse me, you won't get the rest of your strikes. But if you strike into a token, it refreshes all three of your strikes. So 1, 2, through the token, 3, 4, 5, 6 in a row. So that's really fun. I don't actually remember what the green star does here. Maybe I don't even know in the first place. Huh. But yeah, that's strike mode. It still has mini-bosses, so you want to chain strikes into them to kill them. I'm pretty sure a point-blank strike will hit the enemy with most of the projectiles. So that's probably a good idea. Not nearly as good at Crash mode. I'll have to spend more time on that. I've spent the most on Gates and Assault, which is one of my favorites. In Assault mode, you control your difficulty and progression. Grab the special token to spawn the next enemy wave whenever you're ready. No enemy wave randomization. Every run is the same. Which means that you can optimize the hell out of this mode, and I think I'm reasonably good at it. But, now let's just get started. I don't have any preamble for it. In this mode, you have 5 drones in this arrowhead formation in front of you, and once I kill all these enemies, nothing happens, because I need to grab this token. And here's the next wave, and now there's another green token, and I can pick that up immediately. Here comes the next wave. And hey, this is still too easy, let's go to the next wave, and so on and so forth. There's a time limit of 3 minutes, so you want to advance the waves pretty quickly. I think taking advantage of the AoE of the tokens is also quite nice. Collecting Glimmer still spawns extra score tokens, so that's another thing to optimize. The drones will block individual enemies or projectiles, and then they'll disappear and come back after a set amount of time, so maybe preserving your drones would be nice, because I'm pretty sure they also shoot projectiles at the enemies. And I'll strike twice to grab that token, strike to get the score token, spawn yet another wave of enemies, let's spawn a third wave of overlapping enemies, because why the hell not? And now things are getting really out of hand. Those blue enemies have shields at the front. They're pretty tough to take out, but striking through them is a good way to kill them. Also the AoE of the token. So that mode is as intense as you want it to be, and the timer sort of lights a fire under your ass to to move as quickly as possible, which I really like. Time limits in an arcade sensibility, not in like an MMO sensibility where there's no other source of difficulty. So raid bosses have to time out and wipe the whole party or else it'll be too easy. But in arcade sensibilities, a time limit is a really good thing, I find. It adds a lot of tension and integrity to an arcade game, in my opinion. And finally, there's Boss Rush, which, as you guessed it, you just fight the 5 bosses of the campaign. And you can set them to any generation level you want, which, just to show you how crazy things can get, I'll show you a Generation 5 Supreme boss, which is a boss at its most difficult. But in order to unlock the generations and boss rush mode to begin with, I'm pretty sure you need to beat bosses of a certain generation in campaign mode. I believe I unlocked Generation 5 when I beat a Generation 5 boss in campaign mode. So that would make sense. This is definitely a great way of practicing the bosses, among other things, and they're just plain fun, honestly. Oh, it's the Omen core, okay. It's way taller, and now it shoots these AoE blasts all over the place. You gotta watch out for those indicators. Ugh. Yeah, bosses also have their own chaining scoring mechanic. You might have noticed that specific weak points are highlighted. You have to destroy them in a specific order and within a time limit. Uh-oh. My strike was on cooldown. I wanted to strike through that laser. Yeah, you can see this a lot more intense. Actually love the boss design in this game. I'd love to talk about it in detail if I ever did a full playthrough. Whatever a playthrough of such a game would even look like. I'm still not sure how I would go about that. I think at this point, the Generation 1 version of this boss would have died after I destroy these weak points, but this thing has even more phases. And these two are randomized. So even at max difficulty, the bosses are not going to be static. You'll see different patterns with different weapons. And on top of that, every Generation 5 boss has a nasty surprise on top of all of this. But for the time being, I don't really want to show that, because I think it's part of what's so cool about facing these bosses for the first time. And for the record, I'm not going to be starting another playthrough until January, so yeah, I'm going to stop it there, because it kind of looked like the boss died, maybe, but it didn't. I did destroy all of the discs that make up that cylindrical tower. But yeah, every Generation 5 boss has an extra form, which is really, really awesome. And the generation system is put to great use in campaign mode, where the first boss you face will be a lower generation, and then the last boss you face on the medium difficulty will be Generation 5. And with all of its phases and its extra form, it'll feel like a final boss, which is amazing. In general, I guess one other thing I can show about campaign mode is that these are the base 8 decks that I was playing with, but you also unlock 8 more, and you can pick exactly 8 of them to play the game with. And if you wanted to, you can pause and see the various effects the cards have. Some of them are a little vague, like Flex says, "Be awesome," whatever the hell that means. I know what it means, but I won't tell you. But yeah, depending on what you're trying to accomplish in a run, like a specific achievement or playing with a specific ship in a specific mode in campaign, a different selection of decks will make more sense, which is nice. It's not consistent that you can just figure out the optimal linear upgrade order, but it's not so random that it's all luck. It's a nice balance between the usual roguelike nonsense and something much more strategic. And on top of all of that, you see how it says high scores normal and arcade? If you discard all of the decks and don't pick a single card, you enter arcade mode, which has its own separate leaderboard, meaning that you only have the upgrade stack to work with. So you have the Gradius power-up system. Gradius, I actually have no idea how to pronounce that. I know the franchise pretty well. That's what matters. But if you don't like the cards, the game is straight up encouraging you to throw all of them in the garbage, and instead of evolution tokens that give you cards, you'll find more score items. And I think theoretically arcade mode has a much higher ceiling on high scores, but it's way harder because it's just the normal mode of the campaign, but with less upgrades. So it's strictly more difficult, which I kind of like. And yeah, that's Sektori. But before I end this recommendation video, I just want to show the credits here, because I think this is delightful. And I also want to give a little more background. Kimmo Latinen, I think that's how you say that, is a former Housemarque developer. I believe he worked on... I'm not sure exactly which games he was involved in, but they're obviously the arcade shoot-'em-ups, because that would make the most sense. He left and then he made his own twin-stick shoot-'em-up. I'm pretty sure he worked on Nex Machina, Resogun, and maybe Super Stardust, but I'm not entirely sure. Don't quote me on that. I need to do more research. But I know for a fact that he used to work for Housemarque. And the music you've been listening to is by Tommi Latinen, who I think is... well, it's his brother. I'm pretty sure this photo here is the two of them as kids, which is just delightful. This game is dedicated to our families and friends. Thank you for keeping us sane. We are lucky to have you in our lives. And I love that he includes GIFs of early development. That's so cool. I just want to show all of the credits to pay my respects. This is inspiring, man. Maybe someday I'll get into game development as well. But I'm also quite satisfied for the time being with playing and doing videos on games as well, myself. But yeah, between this and Expedition 33, which I quite like, by the way, but I won't get into it now. I just love people leaving corporations and making arguably way better games on their own. Even though the Expedition 33 team did get a lot of funding from various places, so it's not as simple as them being all on their own with no help. Well, this is a very long GIF. Huh. He's showing off an awful lot of stuff here. I just never waited this long. Anyway, I think that gives you a pretty good impression of the game. I'll be playing a lot more of this until the end of the year. And then we'll see what I get up to after the fact. You'll find a link to the game in the description. And yeah, thank you for watching.